when you browse I think it was a Lithuanian banking site, you would go to somewhere else. So a little bit more suboptimal, if that's a phrase. So some good news. AT&T does segment part of their network. For example, I called a buddy of mine in California and said, hey, what's your AT&T IP? Anytime you call one of your friends, you're like, what's your IP? They're like, why? And I was like, oh, just hang on to it and tell me if your phone gets really hot. But I couldn't see them. That said, I could see cell phones that somebody told me were in Boston walking down the street, or the Carolinas. So it wasn't completely segmented. Again, right before I gave my talk, I did pop my SIM card into my air card, started scanning. I was like, just want to make sure that it's all still good and it's still filtered. I think that those worms probably gave the good folks at AT&T probably a pretty good scare. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a second, but there's no real easy way to target a specific individual. So it's hard for me to say, hey, Joe, I want to attack your AT&T NAT IP. There's no way to correlate the IP address to a person via Safari. If you take your Safari mobile web browser to decloak.net, which tells you all types of interesting things behind your network when you go there, it just kind of doesn't work. And I really tried hard to look for like Java applets, but Java doesn't work in, or Flash for that matter, in Safari. And it's really slow. So if you don't have patience, if you have ADD and you're trying to get into somebody over the wireless network, it's slow. That said, probably the easiest way for me to say, you there, I want to attack your iPhone, is I would send you an email message, an HTML email. Most people, I think by default, even with the latest updates, they still allow images to automatically be rendered in mail. I send you an email message first of all, I would place my device on AT&T's network, get an IP address on their NAT network, and set up a listener netcat, or just run TCP dump, send you a specially crafted email message. When you view the message, your browser attempts to contact me to render that image, and I just watch for the inbound TCP send packet, or see who connects to my netcat listener, and bam, I have your AT&T IP. When you hit lock on your phone stays awake for a little while, and I found that when I would turn it on later, after some time had passed, it's a new IP. So once you pin down somebody that you want to go after, it's kind of difficult to follow them. Unless you were to get onto the phone and put some malicious JavaScript in their browser cache on one of CNN's, right, that always phones home to you, then you're like, oh, now you're there. I don't know. I didn't get that far. Well, what do? Everybody likes to paint doom and gloom in these talks, so I like to kind of say, well, this is some things. Don't jailbreak your iPhone if you really care about security. If you've spent some time in the Cydia store or in the Cydia repositories, that stuff doesn't exactly go through a strict QA process, let's say. A guy just did a talk at Black Hat DC where he actually got a malicious proof of concept app approved by Apple into the App Store that accessed pretty much all of the data stores on the iPhone just to show, look, we can do it. And that was after going through Apple's process. And if you know anything about the Apple developer review process, that's a pretty stringent, mysterious process. So the stuff that's in Cydia, there be dragons here. If you do jailbreak it, you obviously should change your root and mobile users' passwords. I shouldn't have to tell that to you people. And a shout out to the Cydia folks. There's no real reason to bind SSHD to the PDP interfaces, or all interfaces for that matter. It kind of should just be on E0, and there should be some sort of force the user to change their password upon install. And a lot of people say, well, stupid users, they should just do that anyways. Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of maybe not the most technical security savvy people out there that are just using Black Rain, clicking, breaking their iPhones, and it's on there. And AT&T, you should filter your mobile-to-mobile IP traffic. They've already done that. So again, that's why I felt kind of comfortable giving this talk. So we're at the halfway point. I'll take questions at the end. The next part of my talk concerns privacy and location-based applications. How many of you, you fire up a lot of apps now and it says so-and-so would like to use your location. Yeah, sure. I want Yelp to tell me the latest, the local stuff. And there's a lot of apps that ask for your location. That's one of the kind of cool things. For this talk, we're going to be talking about the game Underworld Sweetdeal. How many of you ever heard of this game? Anybody? I checked this morning to see if anybody at the conference was playing it, and I didn't see anybody. Underworld Sweetdeal, it's kind of a cool game. They were the first one in the space, and it's a drug trafficking game with candy. Apple, well, they originally allowed you to basically like sell pot and acid and heroin and all these cool drugs to one another, but when they went for the Apple review process, yeah, that didn't go over so well. You know, you can get 50 iPhone applications approved, but oh, you're selling pot? No. And the concept in the game is you have to move product from point A to point B. You buy low and you sell high. So if I'm at my house in Loudoun County and I buy gumdrops or I buy waffles from somebody at a reasonably low price and I come here to DC and I fire the game back up, I check in with the game servers, it now knows that I'm in DC and it exposes my product to the local market and hopefully somebody will buy it from me at a profit, which allows me to raise my rank in the game. Now, in order for the game to expose you to all these new markets or to show you what's for sale, it has to acquire your geo coordinates from wherever you are. And this is a very common operation that a lot of iPhone apps do, is they want to know exactly where you're at so they can give you local results. I've yet to see an iPhone application that does not provide high-resolution latitude-longitude coordinates to the application server. I mean, how accurate is the iPhone GPS? It uses a combination of the cellular towers and Skyhook wireless, which is kind of a cool little concept. So it's fairly accurate, and I'll show you exactly how accurate. This is what the old game used to look like. Anybody familiar with the old game Druglords, okay? It's exactly like that, only it really matters. So you're like, honey, I have to drive down to the gas station because this guy wants to buy waffles from me and I need to get on his game tile. So you actually have to physically move your phone. And it's like, man, I've been playing the hell out of this game and my gas bill's like through the roof, driving around like an idiot. But if you work for UPS or you're a pizza delivery man or you are on the go, you can really wreck shop at this game. So those are the old... So instead of like the cool guys in front of the helicopter, this is kind of a little F you to Apple, I guess. Now they're like these benign donut guys. And this is what the game screen looks like. In the middle there, that's the interface. You can see, when the Redskins started doing really bad, I changed my player name to a Jim Zorn. And all these other players, whenever I would like drive around and check in, I would get these just horrible messages from people. So kind of funny. Really, not a lot of people in this room watch sports, all right? So here's the other players playing. There's Blumkin, guy down, Shake, a couple other people. Now, over on the far right, you can see that the game uses the Google Maps API, so you can kind of see who's around you. And it helps you maybe drive towards somebody so that I can go get closer to this person, get on their game tile, and sell them stuff. Now, this is the most high resolution or the most zoomed inness that the game offers. So you can't pinch and expand. So you can see that little blue character there, that's actually me sitting at my house in my neighborhood. The green things are game server bots, and then the little happy face guy is a sugar addict that I would sell to. Now there isn't any other player on my game screen, but you can see up at the top there's a couple like little white characters, and over on the right, those are actually those are other real players. Now in order for Google Maps or in order for the game to render those player locations on my iPhone, I had to request, hey, show me all the players in my area and bring it back to my phone. What are their latitude, longitude, so I can paint it on my Google Maps? Anybody see where I'm going with this? Anybody that does web app testing or anybody familiar with Paris Proxy knows that, well, basically you would fire up Paris Proxy on your laptop and you tell your iPhone to use your laptop as its proxy server so you can intercept all HTTP stuff that goes in and out of your iPhone. And it's really interesting. It's a very chatty device. It phones home a lot to Apple. You'd be amazed at all the stuff that your applications send back to their servers. So you get to see what they send and what they receive. This is what the request looks like when you click on the Google Maps page. So you can see that it's a post to their game server. GameDLA.a steroids has my session ID at the time. It's not persistent, you jokers. And it logs me into the server. And there's a lot of different methods that it will push over XML, update location, buy, sell things, different game operations. The one that we're interested in is get GMap objects. When it returns the data to you, it's basically serialized XML, and all comes down in one big blob. And you can see, if you squint hard enough, GMap objects at the very top. And then if you look closely in there, there's a couple